Welcome one and all to the show. Wired up, fired up, ready to go. Episode 38 of the BlueTruth podcast, New York Rangers Talk with Brian Attard, powered by the Sportsbox Network. Like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thank you to those of you who are catching the show live this evening. For watching live, if you happen to be catching the YouTube replay, thank you for that as well. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll join the live stream one of these episodes. Today is February the 1st, 2024, and we have a big return show tonight. This is the first real BlueTruth episode, not a BlueTruth blast or a short thing, really since November, and I'm not overly proud of that, but life happens, and I got busy with the holidays and an extended Disney trip that my wife and I took my son Braden to for his 6th birthday. Here's a couple of pictures that you may have seen shared on the BlueTruth page. He was very excited to see his name on the TV there. We had a great time. The best part was that I was distracted from some of the frankly terrible hockey that the Rangers had been playing in January. So things worked out a bit there. Didn't have to watch all of that. I kept tabs, but you get a little busy when you're in Orlando. So anyway, first order of business tonight is to thank you all, as the BlueTruth page has broken 7,000 Facebook followers. I can't thank you all enough for your support, your interactions. I love seeing the same names coming back to the show every time we do it. I recognize names on my shows that have been with me from the first episode, and you're all wonderful. Thank you so much. Really can't thank you enough. You make this fun. As I tell you every time we do this, it is always much more fun to talk hockey with you, to talk Rangers hockey specifically. But enough about me, enough about BlueTruth. Let's talk about our beloved Rangers. The New York Rangers are in first place at the All-Star break for the first time in probably 9 years. It's a total shot in the dark, but it's probably accurate. Probably, I'm thinking 2015, right? If I had told you that they'd be in first place at the break back in September, when we were all resigned to the idea that the Rangers would finish in third, behind the Carolina Hurricanes and the goddamn New Jersey Devils, you'd have been tickled pink about it if I told you that at the time and it happened in fruition. But you're not tickled pink. You're not, because the Rangers have been a little underwhelming the last little while. And by a little underwhelming, I mean ridiculously frustrating. The Rangers have not lost a game since January 26th. In part because they have only played one since. But December 3rd of last season was the date in 2022 when Jacob Trouba threw his helmet against the Blackhawks and woke up the Rangers. I'm sure you recall it vividly. The Rangers entered December 3rd of 2023, a full calendar year later, with an 18-4-1 record. Since then, 12, 12-2. Since the end of 2023, when the ball dropped in Times Square, 5, 7-2. Not exactly a record that you would associate with a first place team, but factually, they are a first place team at the moment anyway. But that 18-4-1 start sure feels like 9 years ago, the way that they've looked at late. So what's happened? What's changed? Well, one thing that's changed is the power play has been struggling as of late. Not that you've needed me to tell you that. 25.5% of Rangers goals this season have come on the power play. Just over a quarter of all Rangers goals this year have been on the power play. That, my friends, is the third highest power play reliance in the league, which is behind only Carolina and Tampa Bay. Last season, when we all said that the Rangers' reliance on their power play would be their Achilles heel, Their power play goals as a percentage of their total was just over 21%. So they rely more on the power play this year than they did last year. It's not ideal. In the last 10 games of 2023, the Rangers scored at least one power play goal in 9 of them. In the 14 games that they've played in January, the Rangers scored a power play goal in less than half, in 6 of them. Their 5-on-5 scoring has not been great, but they are, ironically enough, largely outplaying their opponents. I know that not everyone is into the analytics and the Corsis and all that, and that's fine. But you don't need to be a Corsi scholar to see when you watch them play that they're out shooting their opponents by a wide margin. And they're not necessarily allowing quantity defensively, but the goalie will allow 3 goals on 9 shots, like they did against Vegas last Friday. Another analytic is PDO. PDO is a number that combines your team's shooting percentage with your team's save percentage. Under 1 is considered unlucky, and over 1 is considered lucky. In games that Igor Shesterkin has played, the Rangers' PDO is .975. In every year prior to this, it's been over 1 with Igor in net. 1.026 last year as a reference. In total, the Rangers' PDO, which again, combined shooting save percentage, is 8th worst in the league, which on its own doesn't excuse anything. Carolina is the 3rd worst in the league, and Carolina is right up their ass. But here's the difference. Carolina has allowed 1,815 shot attempts against this year. The Rangers, well, they've allowed 2,302. So Carolina might have a goaltending issue, but they help alleviate their goaltending issue by just limiting the volume of pucks that get directed at their net. They are the best in the league at it. Rangers are below average there. So really what you're seeing now is that their offense is actually producing more opportunities, but they're not able to maximize on it. And that's combined with their goaltending not bailing them out the way that it has and how we're used to in the past, as long as we can remember. Igor has been just average. It is what it is. And really, we can have a lot of discussion about what they need to go get in a trade or what players are underperforming up front, and we will. But it's not going to matter if Igor isn't Igor. And Igor hasn't been Igor consistently since he was out a while. Nobody knows what the issue was, whether it was something physical, something mental, something spiritual, whatever. But he has been average at best since, and that's not going to cut it. Skip the advanced stats. Just look at the basics, and it doesn't paint a pretty picture for Igor Shesterkin. His save percentage is down from .916 last year and .935 2 years ago to .899 this year. His goals against is up from 2.48 last year and 2.07 2 years ago to 2.86 this year. His save percentage is the lowest of his career. His goals against is the highest of his career. That's just not going to work. They aren't getting that big save this year. The goals against have tended to come in bunches. If the goaltending was just a little bit better last month, they're probably not 5-7-2 in their last 14, and you don't feel mad about it. But that's the thing. For all of the scoring struggles, they are maintaining more puck possession this year, and that's a good thing. If the goaltending was anywhere near what Igor is usually there to do, we aren't having these discussions. The Rangers are not going to suddenly defend the way Carolina does. They're not built to do that. They're going to give up chances. So as bluntly as I can say this, and as simply as I can say this, the goaltending needs to be better, point blank. And nothing else is going to matter if it's not. We're going to talk tonight about what they need. That they need a center, and they need a winger, they need this, and they need that. But what they really need, above all else, at its very base level, is better goaltending. And there's not going to be a trade that's going to fix that. Many Rangers teams, a lot less talented than this one, made really deep playoff runs with elite goaltending. This is not a new concept. The idea with the coaching change and the roster changes was to get better up front, so you score more, and you don't need superhuman goaltending to win. But that never meant that the goaltending would fall back to average. They still need elite play in net. They need their goaltender to be the goaltender he was last year and 2 years ago. But circle back to the beginning. The Rangers are, factually, in first place at the break. In all reality, no, they probably are not as good as 18-4-1 would indicate. And to be fair, they're not as bad as 5-7-2 would indicate. They're in the middle of that. So take the good with the bad. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Again, we all pretty much thought coming in that the Rangers would finish third behind Carolina and New Jersey. We'll see where they do end up, but there's always a but. Do you really think that finishing first or second or third or even fourth, as long as they get in, has any impact on their ability to or not to make a run in the playoffs? I don't. This isn't Talladega Nights and the Rangers aren't Ricky Bobby. If they're not first, they're not last. The regular season doesn't matter, and really for this team, it really doesn't matter. As we said from the get-go back in September, everything will be judged on what this team does in April, May, and June. Boston set a record for wins last year and ended up watching the second round just like we did. The way the league does the loser points, it's not always an indication. The Islanders find themselves ahead of the Devils right now, despite the fact that the Devils have won 4 more games. Why? Because the Islanders find ways to lose in overtime or a shootout. Great. Good job. What I'll say is this, and I'm consistent around this. I'm going to get to comments in a second here. Just get to April. Whether they win every game the rest of the season or squeak into a wild card spot, they're going to have the same opportunity. They need to spend the second half working on what's not working and filling the hole so that when the games do matter in April and May and hopefully June, that they don't flame out like they did last year. The Rangers are going to be a playoff team. That this is not no one's going to debate this. I don't think even the most negative among us in this base thinks that all these teams are going to just leapfrog the Rangers in the next 2 months. It's not going to happen. So is losing these games fun? No. Of course not. Is it overly relevant? Not really. What is relevant is if they can improve what's not working. If they were playing well and losing, you probably have less of a problem with it because you see the forest for the trees. But they haven't played well, and that's what's bothering you. A lot of the reasons the results have been what they've been is very simple. They're not getting the goaltending that they've been getting, and they're not built to suddenly start shot suppressing defensively. So the answer to the goaltending question is both simple and difficult. The simple part is the goaltending, but the difficult part is how do you fix it? If you know, feel free to share it with us because we'd be a lot better off. Let me get to some of these comments here. Kana, the scrappy guys like Gus have come down to earth. Anthony Formosa, brother, you can't rely on power play in the playoffs. That's correct. Mark Brown, whistle goes in the pocket during the playoffs, and we said that last year. We said that the year before. That when the power plays are few and far between, and you can't score all 5 and 5, it's a problem. Lou G from Twitter, X, whatever they call it. It's actually my 3 teams as well. Quality scoring opportunities are low compared to the 40 shots they take per game, and that is fair. But Corsi is a measure of puck possession. The more you have the puck, the better off you are. If you have the puck, you can't be scored upon. So, again, they're not maximizing their opportunities. Scott Spector, love you, bud. Certain defensive players need to wake the F up and start using their God-given hockey bodies to move opponents off the puck. Permit them not to skate circles around them without some more solid checks and gel more with their other defensive player that's matched up with them on their shift, if that makes sense. No, it makes perfect sense. And I think that we're going to get to who I think these certain defensive players are. Because I think we're on the same page. We go to enough hockey games together to know that we're on the same page. Love you, bud. Kana, Igor has come back down to earth. Yeah. And therein lies the problem. Because they're not built to be a defensive stalwart the way Carolina is. So Carolina can miss Freddie Anderson for 3-4 months, but they do not allow shots to get to the net. PDO sounds like Dean Warmer from Animal House. 0.00. Brett Anderson, Igor's led in 2+ goals in 2 minutes or less at an impressive rate. That's right. The goals have come in bunches, and that's the problem. It's very difficult because it's a mental game, right? So like if you go back to that Vegas game, they were dominant in the first period. I think it ended 1-1, and then the goals came in bunches, and like it just is like you lose your edge. It's the regular season on top of it, but you know. Greg Torrey, the problem is they overpass. They turn the puck over, too much of risky passes. Their defense has lapses with the puck. But Greg, I will agree with you that that's a problem, but that's been a problem. They do play East-West, right? But the problem solver has been Igor Shesterkin. He's not solving any problems right now. Gunnar Harm's not worried. Sav, Benoit Allaire needs to do his job and fix Igor's mental block. Could not agree more. Ken Olinger with a really good point. Can't think of any game that Igor has stolen for us this year. The numbers would indicate that. The numbers indicate that. Again, goals against is up, save percentage is down. Gunnar, I like how you really dumb it down. It's what I do. So I work in finance. A lot of my job is trying to explain very complex investment things in language people can explain or understand. I translate that to hockey. And again, it's not that the game's complex, but it's not. The game can be very simple. If the simple things make sense, everything else kind of makes sense from that. Brett Anderson, if you have the puck, you can't be scored on unless you're Pittsburgh. Excellent point. That was hysterical. I enjoyed the own goal. That's always fun. Anthony and Brian may be stealing some of my thunder here. But that I know is who Scott's talking about. Ray Leo, Devils fan. Hey, Brian, hope all is well. And listen, I haven't seen you on the show. I haven't been on in a while, so that's fine. I don't know if you have any comments on why your team is where they are. I'm happy to hear them. I can't imagine you're thrilled right now with where they are. I am because I can be. You, on the other hand, my friend, are not, which I understand. So their record clearly has not been great in 2024, but what's also the larger concern right now is the loss of Filipino after having a setback during recovery from what everyone thinks is a concussion earlier in the year. No one's really discounting that at this point. It's not good any which way you cut it. and this is going to sound counterintuitive, and I don't mean this to sound negative. I really don't, but just follow me here. The Rangers are actually set up okay right now to withstand the loss of Chytil, and not just for this season. Just follow me here. The top priority is 100% getting Chytil healthy again. I am not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, but I don't think his career is over the way some do. I think that's the negative in our base that's talking. But when I say that the Rangers are set up to withstand this, the Rangers have their top two centers locked up for a long time. For better or for worse, they're locked up for a long time. Mika Zibanejad is signed for 6 more seasons. More on him in a bit. Trocheck is signed for 5 more seasons. For all intents and purposes, they have their top 2 centers. I had made the case last year that Chytil may have been a trade piece because I didn't think he would stick around to be the third line center. And coming into the year, we did our roster breakdown. I thought that Chytil would be the second line center, and Trocheck, would drop to third line. But he's played well enough to make the All-Star team. So I say all of that to say that when Chytil, when healthy, was going to be third line center on this team. Do they need to bring in a center? Sure. We'll talk about the deadline a little bit later in the show. And I am not in any way, shape, or form intending to diminish Chytil's importance whatsoever. Please don't take it that way. What I'm saying is that end of the day, they're missing their third line center. It's not your first line center, your second line center, top 6 wingers. The way the team is structured, he's their third line center. Worse things can happen to a team. That's all I'm saying, than losing the third line center. If anything, the positive is that now they know that there is a hole at third line center that they need to fill, rather than waiting around, going along, thinking Chytil could be back, might be back, and they just had to kind of float along until he made it back. So now the $4.4375 million that Chytil was allocated becomes usable cap space. And this gives them just a total of just over 5.2 available. That's advantageous. We'll talk deadline in a bit. But the point of what I'm saying, and kind of the finality of it, the knowledge that Chytil isn't coming back this season for sure, now they can act if and when they see fit with the thought that I guess what I'm trying to say is now they can try to solve the problem rather than wait for Chytil to come back and be the solution to the problem. They know it's not going to be him. They will do everything that they can to have him ready for next season, and you hope that that's the case. It is a head injury, so you don't really know. I'm not in the camp that thinks this is something that will be the end of Filipino as a Ranger. I'm not, again, I'm not a doctor, clearly. I'm optimistic he's going to be back next year, take all the rest that he needs the rest of the way, and go from there. If not, though, play devil's advocate. The Rangers need a solution for the third line next year, too, because they really don't have a lot of organizational depth at the center position. So, thank God that Vinny Trocheck has been as good as he's been this year, and they really need that to continue. The Rangers can withstand the loss of Chytil the way their centers are structured. We'll talk trade shortly. This sucks. I wish the best of Filip Chytil. I hope he comes back home opener next year, whatever, puck drop, that he's himself again. You know, you've seen guys, Eric Lindros, too many concussions, and you hope that's not the case for him. But now at least they know there's finality to it. He's not coming back this year. They can plan accordingly. And from that standpoint, it is what it is, but now they can move forward. Comments coming in. John Howard, what's happening, brother? How are you? Dmitry Inoski, what do you think about the Elias Lindholm trade, and what are your thoughts on Drury sitting this one out? Personally, I think Vancouver gave us a lot. Hold that thought, Dmitry. I am going to get to the deadline and that deal specifically, so we will talk about that. Ray Leo and the Devils, definitely not thrilled. Injuries taking its toll. Combine it with a young defensive core underperforming goaltending, and the result is what you see. You know, Ray, I think the difference, it is their goaltending. I was very happy when Connor Hellebuck re-upped in Winnipeg. So that means he was never going to be a double. Peter, What's up, brother? I made a prediction on your last show before the season. The Rangers are very capable of finishing first in the division, but they are not built to be a successful playoff team. Someone even responded with the Rangers have zero chance of finishing first. I mean, the Rangers are in first right now. So, I mean, they were in first for a long time with a big gap. The gap has expired. They can blame themselves for that, but you'd rather them have this lull now than in March and April. Sav, I think he might be finished because he had a couple of concussions. That's not good for his quality of life. Listen, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying let's give him the time to recover, see where it goes in the fall. At least he's going to have, what, 9 months, 8 months? See where he's at. It's unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. I mean, the kid's a great player, but it is what it is. I was talking about Mika's. I was talking about Vinny Trocheck's strong play, and they really do need Trocheck to continue that strong play because Mika Zibanejad has one goal more than I do since the December 29th loss in Florida. He is ice cold. You know, I don't mean one goal at even strength. I mean one goal, period. Now, he has 9 assists over that time period, whatever. They talk about things that the Rangers need. They need Mika Zibanejad to play like the number one center he's being paid to be. If I told you that Zibanejad would have one goal in the team's last 14 games, would you be surprised that they're 5-7-2? I don't think you'd be surprised at all. Usually, we're having these talks around how Mika's goals all come on the power play, and that's a problem. And it is. It's a bigger problem now because he's not scoring at all. So for him, when it rains, it pours, and not in a good way. Should we be concerned? Short answer, yeah, we should. Mika Zibanejad is 30 years old, is signed for 6 more years at $8.5 million, and there should be a lot of concern that he's slowing down much more quickly than anticipated. Hopefully, this is the exception and not the norm, that this is a slump and not indicative of a longer-term trend. If you watch BlueTruth, I know a lot of you have, I was very against giving him a long-term big money deal at his age. I was banging the drum loudly for the Rangers to go get Jack Eichel from Buffalo. I'm not going to go down that road tonight, but you get my point. As the number one center on this team, you need more from Mika Zibanejad. He is the reason that the number one line is him, Kreider, and fill in the blank. We had a poll on BlueTruth not that long ago. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but overwhelmingly, people said that the Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line was the real top line. And I can't argue that at all, especially not from a production standpoint. Where would the Rangers be without those 3 guys, right? Oddly enough, Zibanejad and Trocheck have identical stat lines this year. 15 goals, 31 assists, 46 points. You're paying Mika Zibanejad $8.5 million for as long as you are to be the number one center on this team. Is he the number one center on this team right now? This is not a barometer, not that it really matters, but Vinny Trocheck's the one in Toronto this weekend for the All-Star game and not Mika Zibanejad. If I told you before the season, there's a theme here, that the 2 centers would be tied in points at the break, you probably would have told me, well, what happened to Mika? Did he get hurt? No, Trocheck's just playing really well, and Mika's not playing to himself. And it's a problem. And this is the risk, guys. This is the risk that you take when it comes to giving 30-year-olds long-term deals. It's a massive risk to the team. Now, it's not that I don't think Mika Zibanejad is a great player. I certainly do. And I'm not saying that he can't turn it around this year. He absolutely needs to. But as time goes by, it catches up to everyone. And Mika signed until he's 37. I'm pushing 40, by the way. I'll be 40 in March. Do we think he's going to be an offensive dynamo at 35 and 36? Probably not. But his contract won't decrease. And this is why I was happy to entertain the idea of giving a 4 years younger Jack Eichel the money because I'd get more out of it for longer. Again, I'm not going to re-legislate the Jack Eichel trade, non-trade. We're not doing that tonight. What I'm going to say is that they need Mika Zibanejad to be Mika Zibanejad. We said earlier, if Igor isn't Igor, their chances aren't good. Well, if Mika isn't Mika, that's not going to work either. But this is what happens when players get older. This is the discussion that we have around, we have it a lot, around what is this team's real window to contend. We talk about that all the time. Take a look at some of these comments coming in. Peter, I've always been a Chytil supporter. Unfortunately, now I think he's suited to play in Europe, not the NHL. Rolo Noob, that's a new name. Mika is Wika. Ray Leo, does Trocheck or the team have an opt-out after this year? So no. So there was a 3-year deal, and then the 3-year no movement clause, the other 4 was a modified no trade. 46 points and 48, buddy. Yep. Where are the goals coming from? He's been their goal scorer. Why does Vinny Trocheck match Mika Zibanejad? Just saying. Kurt Chanel, my brother. No, it's not a surprise. It was a concern before he resigned. Yep. Ray, I'm glad you brought the power play. Analytics board, the Rangers are a great power play team, not so great 5-on-5. Any concern there given they were the same identity they had last year? So their actual 5-on-5 play has improved. They're just not finishing. And it comes in spurts and defensively goes back the other way. They just need to have their goaltender play a little better, and then maybe it's okay. You're going to look, they're built to take chances. They're built for the defense to activate. They're built to have their goalie be elite. The goalie needs to be elite. That I don't know how else to say it. You can't have 3 goals on 9 shots. I don't care if they're breakaways. You can't do it. They need more. PJ, what's up, brother? Is a gritty player necessary? Well, Richard, I'll get back to you, but tell me where you're going to put him. Who's he replace? Whenever someone says, do we need X? Okay, maybe not. But where does X go? Because there's only X amount of spots on the roster, on the starting roster, on the lines. Great question. What happened to the structure? Because I've been to a couple games before I went on my trip, and I didn't see the 1-3-1 very well. Need to get back to that. John Howard, the Rangers' struggles are more Zib, shabby defense, and most surprisingly, Igor struggles. Yes, to go anywhere, Igor has to find his game, and nothing will matter. Absolutely right. We're going to have a discussion about what they're going to do at the deadline, but it's true. Nothing's going to matter. Nothing's going to matter unless they figure that out. 100%. Joel Shanker, at least get him on the power play, contribute something. Yes, I agree. Mika have more playing with bread. Well, yeah, but he wasn't playing with Panarin last year. Like, he's just not producing, and that's the problem. Mika March right around the corner. Christian Carlson, power play struggled a lot recently as well. That's absolutely right, and that's a problem. These things are all happening at the same time, then you wonder why they're 5-7-2. Kristen, that topic is coming up in just a minute or two, so hang on. PJ, as much as Mika's production has slipped this season, it's not the reason we're playing bad. Bigger problem is it's the goaltending. It's the goaltending. It's the goaltending. It's the goaltending. So, should the Rangers get aggressive at the trade deadline? The answer to that question is yes. Yes, they should. Why? I just got done telling you that Mika Zibanejad's 30. Panarin's 32. And April Kreider's 33. If you're not going to be aggressive right now with this group, then what the hell are you doing? What's the point? You'd be sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere. Now, when I say aggressive, I don't mean that you completely blow up your future to go completely all in 1 year. But you have to be doing something. There is a balance between endless patience and going for it when you have an opportunity. Do I think they're going to be better next year as they get older? Probably not. Right now, you've got Artemi Panarin playing out of his mind. Did you see that coming after the way last season ended? Probably not. How many more years will you have that? Vincent Trocheck having a great year, as we talked about, made the All-Star team. Nobody saw that coming. Is the team flawed? Sure, but every team is. You can't sit on your hands if you're Chris Drury. And everything that we're hearing is that he's not going to sit on his hands. And by the way, they just got a backdoor gift of cap space. Thank you, Chytil. I guess. I wish you the best. That they can use. Do you think they're going to let that cap space just not be used for anything? Just wasted? Come on now. You know better. They're the Rangers. This shouldn't sound new to anyone who has followed BlueTruth over the last few years. I am as consistent can be with this. Whether or not you think they're a contender doesn't really matter. They think they're a contender, and they'll act accordingly. You will only have so many legitimate shots with this group, this core of players. This is not the NFL where you can just cut guys and move cap year to year. You can't. Comments. The defense and the goaltending are the biggest disappointments and shocks for me this season. Kristen Carlson, I don't think they should trade young guys and future trade prospects for rentals, though. We'll talk about that. We will be in trouble if and when Igor is due for an extension. Joel Shanker, how much does their cap issues prevent them from making a move that moves the needle? They don't have cap issues right now. They have $5.2 million in space, plus any money you send out. So, yeah. Kurt, the Canucks going for it, so should the Rangers. Jay, the Rangers need to have grit in the top six other than Trocheck. The top six way too passive and soft for the playoffs. Other teams have this. No one has issues with McKinnon, Crosby, or other skilled guys like Stamkos drop the gloves. No team wins with Mika as their number one center. Arguably, he's not the number one center right now, and that's a concern because Trocheck's been kind of outplaying him. Gunnar, not a lot of good names at the deadline this year at the moment. Well, let's talk about it. So, it's shopping season. Chris Drury's got the credit card in hand and let's ready to go. Let's go shopping. So let's talk about what they need and what might be available. What can they offer? The ironic part about this next conversation, as I thought about it today, is it's almost the identical conversation that we had the last 3 years of what they need. They've generally addressed these needs with Band-Aids. So it works to an extent, but it doesn't solve the need long term. So let's break it down. Shopping list number one. A first line or third line right winger. Now, this is interesting because it could go a couple of different ways depending on what you're trying to fill. The first line right wing is either going to be Kaapo Kakko, Blake Wheeler, or someone you trade for. Let's assume it's not Blake Wheeler because that doesn't get me excited at all. The Wheeler signing hasn't been a total disaster. It hasn't really worked, I think, the way anybody would want it to. But he's bounced around the lines a bit. That's the reason for it. I think for Wheeler to be here, he needs to be a complementary piece on like the third line, right? So let's say that they go and make a move for someone to play first line right wing with Mika and Kreider. Well, then where the hell does that leave Kakko? Kakko is an RFA at the end of the season, and it is entirely plausible that the Rangers don't think they'll be able to sign him. When you consider that the equation has changed, Lafreniere's on the right side now. Brennan Othmann's on the way. It's entirely plausible that they don't feel that there's a long-term spot on this team for Kaapo Kakko. And that's how he becomes expendable. If he's not in your future plans, then you have to do what you have to do. If you don't think that Kakko can be Mika's right wing for the next 2, 3, 4 years, then realistically, you don't have a place for him. If Lafreniere sticks at right wing too, and Brennan Othmann's coming up to be your third line right wing next year, then Kakko's either on the first line or he's somewhere else. Does that mean that you move Kakko for a rental? No. I don't think that makes sense. But as part of a larger deal, if you don't see Kakko as the top right wing for the next few years and there's no spot for him, don't you have to? He's due for a deal. You either need to move Laffy up to the Mika line, which would change the dynamic of the Trocheck line, or move Kakko to the third line. In which case, What do you do with Brennan Othman? Are you going to have rookie Brennan Othman on the first line and an RFA Kako making probably $3, $5, $4 million to play third line? Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? It's musical chairs. I'm not in this mindset that I just want to give up on Kako either. Not at all, but it has to make sense, right? It has to be a deal for somebody with term or someone who they see as a multi-year fit. Like if this is a spot that they were going to try to fill with a Vladimir Tarasenko, for example, like I don't think that's Kako going out for Vladimir Tarasenko. Could they re-sign Tarasenko and after they got him? Yeah, possibly. But how old do you want to be at that point? Vladdy just turned 32. I love Vladdy. I wish we had a way to keep him last year, but that would be a really old top line if Vladimir Tarasenko is your multi-year fit. So I don't think that's kind of where it becomes. Vetrano hurdler Tarasenko, says Ken Ollinger. Don't give up on Key, says PJ. We'll talk about that. Rangers will make a trade for a Hagel type. Someone who'll be here for more than a few months. With Chytil being out, they need to make a Hagel type of trade. Go for Zegras. See, but even that though, Jay, like Zegras isn't a third line center. I don't think you're bringing him to do that. I love Trevor Zegras, but I talked about this. I think when there was this Anaheim stuff going on, that like, where's he going to go? Like you've made your deal with 93 and 16. So like you need a third line center. We'll talk about that. Gunnar wanted Kuzar, Zadorov. Sav wants to move Miller to the third line right wing and trade for a center. Don't think that's going to happen. Charles Ferris, new name. Kreider, one-trick pony. Big and strong, but he can't win a board battle. Never hits anyone. Doesn't back check. No grit, etc. He has some value when 6 feet from the net. What would his worth be in a trade? Well, Charles, we're not going to know because he has a no-trade clause, and they're not going to ask him to move it. Chris Kreider will retire a New York Ranger. They're going to raise his number to the rafters. That ship sailed for me. I mean, we're talking about a guy, regardless of how they went in, he scored 50 goals, whatever it was, 2 years ago. Kristen, I do kind of like Wheeler, though, has a passion. Joy makes me smile. He's not terrible, but you're right, nothing to get excited about. Well, see, that's the thing, Kristen. Like, if that's your right wing on the top line, like when you're matching up against other teams in the playoffs, like you don't feel good about that. I have nothing against Blake Wheeler personally. My dad and I talk about this. Like, in certain angles, he facially looks like Lundqvist. I don't know. I made the connection, but guys are good depending where you slot them. I don't think Wheeler's a top guy. He can't be a second line guy. He could be a third line guy if that's where you're going to play him. 18 goals last year, only 22. Can see his play is there, just ready to break through. I don't disagree with you, but we'll talk a little more about that. Chris would love to have Tarasenko back. We talked about the Hagel thing. $2.4 million qualifying offer for Kako, but he does have arbitration rights. Not really a goal scorer. You're right, Mark. So I don't know. I think I don't know. Like, I think he's in the mid 3s to low 4s if you get him. I don't know. Depends what he signs, right? I mean, it is an RFA. Is Goodrow worth keeping? No. If they could leave Goodrow on the side of the road, they would, but they can't. He has no movement clause too, or at least a half team no trade. Took Lindholm 5 years to hit 20. Everyone seems over that guy these days. Kako for Zegras, maybe. See, but again, Jay, that depends, right? Because he's a center. Is Chytil done? In which case, where do you put Chytil? Can Zegras play wing? Never his position. Why do you say Othman on the right wing? He's back playing left wing in Hartford. They're not giving him right wing minutes. Well, because then you're moving Cooley to the right side. Because again, you have Kreider and Panarin on the left. There's only so many guys you're going to move to the right. Othman did get some right wing time. He said he can play both wings. I'm assuming his future spot is somewhere third line, either wing. Go ahead, flip him with Cooley if you need to, but that's that line. Tom O'Neill says, bring Riley Nash up and see how that plays out. Paul Suggs is a local Anaheim fan. I think he's just saying scenery, him for Kako straight up. I don't think that Anaheim does that. I don't think Anaheim does that at all. And I don't know who Lubman is, but we're going to go ahead and block him and delete his comments because people just want to spam the page and go walk in traffic. Jay Lewis, why do the Rangers love big guys that play soft, small, and passive like Miller and Mika? I mean, he has offensive talent for sure. But somebody brought it up. They're already talking about the Vetranos of the world. You know, people talk about bringing back Pavel Buchnevich from St. Louis. A lot of people keep talking about bringing back players like their ex-girlfriends that they want to date again. Buchnevich, Patrick Kane, Ryan Strome, Frank Vetrano. People want to bring back Matt Zuccarello until he's in a walker. It's a nice idea, but we saw that movie before. This fan base just cannot get over Matt Zuccarello. And I guess they'll be linked to them at the deadline. Even an Anthony Duclair, like former Ranger out in San Jose, the absolute best fit for me, like who is my pipe dream that I would absolutely love to go get, which is not going to happen, is Jay Gensel from Pittsburgh. I don't think they can sign him unless they get out of the Barclay Goodrow deal. And even then, let's say this is the move that cost Chicago. Number one, I think the rumor is that Gensel turned down 6 years, 8.5 with Pittsburgh, so that's not good. But are you mentally and emotionally prepared to see Kaapo Kakko flourish on Pittsburgh because our team couldn't figure him out? Fan base will dwell on that for a decade. You know this. Vetrano. If you can get Vetrano for next year too with retention, that's interesting. But is he going to be your first line right wing for the next 2 years? I don't know. He's having a very nice year this year. I take nothing away from that. But I don't know if Frank Vetrano is a top 6 winger on a cup contending team. Am I asking a lot? Yeah. Gensel is my pipe dream. He'd be that guy. That's the guy. That's a legitimate top scoring winger that you could put on Mika's right side. But he is pending UFA. He'll need a new contract. Rangers can't afford probably. And you know that Pittsburgh, as a rival team, would just love to stick it up our ass from a cost perspective. So it might be too much. So, okay. If they're looking, let's just say you keep Kakko in the first line, Laffy second. So now if you're looking for the third line winger, because you've resigned yourself to keeping Kakko, then there's going to be a really uncomfortable conversation that you have with Blake Wheeler. You're not going to play Blake Wheeler on the fourth line. I'm not going to. Moving Wheeler out is something he would have to sign off on because he's a no movement clause. But that would be the way to keep Kakko on the roster and get a complimentary winger for the third line. Definitely not getting rid of Shesterkin. That's not going to happen. Kakko, Paul Slugs, I'm shocked that Blake Miller has improved from last year, especially with his size. He needs to just crush guys, use his long reach. We're going to talk about that in a second. I actually wanted to go. I keep getting asked about Tom Chytil, and I don't know what Hurdle's contract is. I can't imagine that it's good, but I'm going to go look. I remember him signing this stupid deal with the Sharks, and I can't imagine that has any potential for the Rangers. So, yeah, so Thomas Chytil is signed at $8.1375 million. He's age 30, and he has 7 more years. That's 37. No. That'll never work. That will never work. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Blake had to go. Yeah. Mike Tess shop Panarin. So again, we need to understand that there's things called no movement clauses, and he's not going to waive it just to go anywhere. Artemi Panarin, who is unequivocally your best offensive player, is signed for another 2 seasons. I would become just very comfortable with that. He's not going anywhere. I will call JD in Columbus about Boone until he does a deal to get the calls to stop. Well, the problem with that is I don't know if he's really a fan of the Rangers right now. Same as Montreal, by the way. Not going to send Kakko to blossom in Pittsburgh. That's a concern. Why do so many players have a no movement clause? Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Goodrow has a no trade. Wheeler has a no trade. Trouba's got a no move. Igor's got a no trade. You know. Okay. Al Rastelli says, I'm an idiot. Well, Al, why don't you get yourself a calculator and tell me where the Rangers are going to fit Hurdle's contract on this team? Because I'm an idiot. I can also do second grade math, which says you might be an idiot if you think the Rangers can fit a contract of $8.1 million a year that is signed until 2029-30 for a 30-year-old. Just got done talking about Mika's contract, and that's a problem. How much more age do you want to add in long-term commitment? No, I don't take it personally, though. Stop, please. Oh God. It is stupid to have no many movement clauses, but who do you want to trade? Okay, fair enough, Al. No, I don't see that. I can only see the comments coming in. No offense taken. Sorry, my bad. So I can't show you what I'm on StreamYard. It only shows me the comments in a stream, so I can't tell who's responding to who. But as you were, we're good. Sorry. Play it out, save the assets. Okay. We're going to get to that in a second, John. So hold that thought because I have a thought about that too. I lost. Where am I? Okay. Rangers shopping list. Number 2 is a third line center. They need a third line center. We know Filipino's not walking through that door, at least not this season. Clearly a hole that needs to be filled. If you believe Larry Brooks, who I have no reason not to believe, the Rangers were very interested in Elias Lindholm, who was traded on the 31st to Vancouver from Calgary. And you see what Calgary gave up. What Calgary got from Vancouver for Lindholm. And you know what? Gift in disguise. Gift in disguise that the Rangers didn't do that deal. And really, all this talk about Kakko being available, I think was probably leaked by Calgary to try to get a better offer from Vancouver, and they probably got it. Good for them. You would have been livid if the Rangers made a similar deal for Elias Lindholm, who I might add is a pending UFA. Stride the hot goalie. Paul, I can't. I mean, love you too, but I can't. My shoulders can't carry that one. Rangers need bigger D with grit. We'll talk about that in a second. Either they can fit Hurdle. Why would you want to? I agree. They can't. Let's see. Jay Lewis talking about Jack McBain from the Coyotes. RFA only 23, could be next Brian Boyle type. I think they go veteran the way things are looking. This is the thing, right? Because we just got done talking about Lindholm. You don't need this elite guy as your third line center. You don't need this big time offensive player. You need a guy who can be a third line center, not a top 6 center playing the third line. Like, I think from a role perspective, that's important. So you hear these links to Adam Henrique, who, by the way, I'm sure this fan base would just love, right? All the talk about how can we have Jonathan Quick on this team? Yeah, you and Adam Henrique. That will be a conversation piece. But you hear the link to Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome has 3 more years left at $5 million. That's too much money for too long. Why didn't sign here to begin with? But let's just for fun say that Anaheim would take half, and now it's Strome at 2.5. Excellent value. Is he a third line center though? Or again, is he a second line center? Moulaing is a third line center, and they play different roles. Furthermore, let's go say you get a center with term. What do you do with Chytil if he comes back? I guess you can figure it out later. I get that, but you are making a commitment for sure. People talk about Sean Monahan in Montreal. It's a nice idea in theory until you remember who's running Montreal now, and they probably don't like the Rangers very much. Jeff Gorton specifically. So you're in a position where you would have to significantly outbid everyone else. And that's not ideal. Player's fine. Would fit nicely. But you can't be held hostage over it. So I don't see Monahan here for the simple reason that I think the Rangers would have to overpay. I don't see it happening. I wonder if a guy like Jack Roslovic from Columbus is available, what that would cost. 27 years old, pending UFA, $4 million contract. Columbus takes half. What's it cost? Second round pick, mid-level prospect, a Bryce McConnell Barker, or a Brett Berard, Adam Edstrom. It won't cost the one. Shouldn't cost the one. It's a name. You hear that Scott Lawton from the Flyers is available or seems to be, but I think that's probably cost prohibitive. 2 more years after this at $3 million, 29 years old. He can play wing, but he'll be playing center here. I think if you're going to deal with the Flyers, which they have, right? And we don't like the Flyers, but they have Justin Braun most recently. But then I think you're looking at a bigger deal. And I think if you're talking to the Flyers, you would be looking at a Travis Konechny. Now, if you're in a world where you're trading for Travis Konechny, that's where the Kakko deal makes sense, right? Because you can get your hands on Konechny. Somehow, if you get them to take Goodrow off your hands, the Rangers probably empty the clip on that. Just saying, I don't think it's likely. But if I'm talking to Philadelphia, I'm more looking at possibly a Konechny if I can get my hands on him, not so much a Scott Lawton. They were linked recently to Blackhawks center Tyler Johnson, who you probably remember better as a member of the Lightning winning Stanley Cups. Now, he's currently injured. He's on the IR. Don't know how long it's going to be for, but probably not that long. Pending UFA, $5 million price tag. That's someone who might be in their sights too. Chicago will certainly retain on him. They have the lowest cap space in the league. So there's plenty of names to consider. But I guess if it's one thing for me, the third line center needs to be a third line center, not a guy who's a second line guy playing third line center. Like, I just think that you need more of a two-way guy there. It's not just, go offense on your third line. You have two lines that can do that. So fit matters. It's not so much the name, but I think fit matters. Comments again. Everybody wants Frankie Vetrano back again. Depends on if they can. I just don't know. Like, is he a top line winger to you? Is he a first line winger on a cup contender? It is in Anaheim, because Anaheim's one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting blinded by the name. I don't know. I don't look at him and say, that's a guy who can be a top line winger on a cup contender. I can't wrap my head around that. Could I be wrong? Certainly. I'm wrong all the time. Jay, Rangers to get younger, not another vet. They have enough vets. Need some younger players who actually not break down or show their age in the playoffs. I hear you on that, but I that's not the direction I think they're going to go. We can talk about that's what we would like. I don't think that's the direction they're going to go. Vetrano back would be nice, but not for more than we got him for in the first place. Jay Lewis, big fan. She likes Lawton, bring edge, has some term. Term works both ways. Can also be a problem too, because then you're stuck with the term. Would move Miller or Kakko for Konechny. Tyler Johnson was good with the bolts, slightly not that good, injury prone, undisclosed upper body. Yeah, I don't know who it would cost you. I'm not saying it cost you a lot. Frankie would do nothing for us. We're talking about third line center. I'm not going to list this specifically as a need, but they probably could use a fourth line center too. The top 2 centers are here forever, whether you like it or not. The other 2, you have some leeway there. Third thing on the shopping list, left side defenseman. Now, this is going to be a fun conversation. So they could look to upgrade on their back end, but it's not, it's kind of like Kakko in that you're going to have to ship somebody out to upgrade. And it's not going to be Adam Fox. It's not going to be Jacob Trouba. It's probably not going to be Braden Schneider. So I think you're probably looking at somebody on the left side of your defense. And realistically, we've talked about this a couple times. I am very, 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 very nervous about what Ryan Lindgren's next contract will look like. I see a lot of Ryan Callahan on defense. I see a lot of McDonough. I see a guy who's not going to age well. And when you make long-term Girardi, when you make long-term commitments to guys who don't age well, back end of the deal becomes a disaster. I was very happy McDonough didn't sign here. He won his 2 cups in Tampa. God bless him. Thank you for your service while you're here. Still one of my favorite players, but I knew that deal was not going to end well, and it didn't end well for Tampa Bay. They had to get him out of there. It cost them money to get out of there. My point is that it kind of went the way I thought it was going to go, so I'm glad that we didn't get stuck with the bill on that. Ryan Lindgren's also the Robin to Fox's Batman. So I just don't think that happens. I think they find a way to keep Lindgren around. We'll see what the contract looks like. Anyway, he's not getting dealt. I do think that if anyone is going to be moved from the D-core, It is Keandre Miller. Keandre Miller is a controversial figure in Rangerland. You know, he has his fans, he has his detractors. For all the talk of his potential, which is true, has a ton of it. There's also talk of lack of physicality and defensive blunders, which are true as well. So he's polarizing, to say the very least. But if you're going to make a move on the back end, Miller would be the one that likely would be going the other way. Just basic process of elimination dictates that. And plus, he surely has value in a deal. He's locked in next year at $3.8 million. So you could make the case that they may not be able to keep him after next year anyway. He took that short-term deal. He wanted that short-term deal, but with the intention that when it was done, the cap would be up and he could sign for bigger money, betting on himself. It is very possible that he could price himself out of New York. So if you're making a move on defense, you might be moving him a year early, but you can't rule it out because, again, everyone talks about they want to upgrade the defense. They want to upgrade the defense, but they don't want to get rid of anyone. Or they want to get rid of Trouba, who you can't get rid of. So, like, just, you know, spin the wheel. Who would you get, right? Like Miller would be the one that would move. Miller's the movable piece with value of all of them. So I think it'd be him. I'm not saying I want it to be him. I'm saying it could be him. So if you're looking at a Jacob Chytil from Ottawa, like that's the guy who replaces Miller, so Miller goes in that deal theoretically, right? You're not going to put Keandre Miller $4 million in your third pair, and you're just not going to do that. So the way it kind of breaks itself down, he'd be the one that would go. That is very well. No, that is a pipe dream. If for no other reason, then Mika's got a no trade. Get Engel from the Kings if possible. He is tough as nails, always getting hurt. I like Ryan, but long-term, no way. Lindgren's the guy that I would trade. It's pending UFA, though. PJ, Miller was the bee's knees for past years. Now he's mediocre half a season. Now everybody wants to trade him. It's craziness. Well, but again, PJ, remember, he needs a deal after next season. Can they give it to him? Maybe they can't. Yeah. I would deal Miller over Lindgren. I would agree. Keep Miller, but Jurius have a serious conversation with him. I'd much rather move Miller than Lindy. I mean, and that's, yeah. Wi-Fi to the Rangers, he'd be a great add at the deadline. If you move Lindy, he instantly makes his team event even softer. Yes, I agree. So that's the thing, right? Like we talk about, oh, they're soft. They're soft. They're soft. They're not soft. Well, they're soft. Okay. Then you're not trading Ryan Lindgren. Miller is your expendable piece. I really believe that. I'm not here to give him away. What I'm saying is if you're going to make the move, that's what you do. John, I don't know if they're going to keep their first round pick. They're not talking about the draft. The core of this team is 30. Like they're not talking about drafting guys that are going to play until that core is 35. Like they're just not going to do that. I can't see it. So that's the shopping list. And it seems to be the same one as last year and the year before. Funny how that works. But they have the cap space this year. And they have assets that they can move. If you think, and this is kind of directed towards John, if you think for 1 second that the Rangers are not going to be active to try to patch these holes, to try to make a run this year, I just think you're fooling yourself. I think you're not in touch with reality. I think if you don't want them to be active, if you don't want them to try, you're not really paying attention. The Rangers are a win now team, and they have been a win now team. Whether or not you think they're a win now team doesn't matter because they think they're a win now team, and that is how they are going to operate. It is natural. It is natural to be concerned about being too aggressive. It is natural to be concerned about overpaying or them moving a piece that you wish they wouldn't, that you think they're going to regret, and I get that. But I feel like very much it's the same discussion as the past year. Does it make sense to let your core players age and rot and become useless just so that you keep pieces which may or may not ever come to fruition so that if some of them do, they come to fruition while the team has guys in their mid-30s making big dollars and mid-level young players and be a cosmetic playoff team that can't go anywhere. It's not going to work. Nothing that the Rangers have done the last 2 seasons should indicate to you at all that they're not going to be aggressive at this deadline. If they're not going to be aggressive at this deadline, then they should start selling off, which, by the way, they can't do because most of the team has no movement clauses and no trade clauses and contracts nobody wants and everything else, which precludes a move anyway. To quote Jim Ross, one of the best wrestling announcers of all time, business is about to pick up. So brace yourself for it. Be ready for it. BlueTruth will have it all for you. And hey, if I think something is high-level stupidity, I will be the first one to tell you. I sugarcoat nothing, and you know that if you follow this show. Something is going to happen. They have $5 million to work with, and they think they can go win a Stanley Cup. And someone just mentioned this. They're a win-now team in a seemingly wide-open Eastern Conference this season. Brett, you're 110% right. Who are you afraid of? Who can't they beat? Who can they not beat in a playoff series? Boston? Beat Boston twice already. Who you fear? They're in first place. We thought they were going to finish third. If they're playing Florida, that's the third round. There is a chance we don't see the playoffs. A very good chance. All right. I'm going to humor you, John. I'm going to go on DraftKings, and I'm going to see what their odds are to not make the playoffs. Because if you believe that, you could make a lot of money. So hold that thought. NHL. Okay, let's see. Team futures to make the playoffs. Are the Rangers even active on this? Okay. The New York Rangers, if you would like to win $100 on the Rangers making the playoffs, you must wager $4,000. If you think the Rangers won't make the playoffs, they will give you 17-1 odds on that. Bet $100, win $1,700. John, if that's how you feel, I would love to see your bet. I would love to see your bet. No one in the East we can't beat. Canucks in a cup final, I'll take my chances. Let's get there. Joel says Florida and Boston. They already beat Boston. Wow, Florida? Nah, I don't think so. They could be Tampa. Tampa's Tampa, but they're not Tampa. Like they're still Tampa, but they're not Tampa. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. I think you know what I mean. Like they're Tampa, but they're not Tampa like the way that they've been. Anyone people were reluctant to move on for me to realize if they lose and blow it up in 2 years, those guys are going anyway. Panarin's 32. Thank you. What are we doing? We're going to sit here and wait for Brett Berard to maybe play third line? No. They're in. They're win now. They're going to act like win now. I don't know how you can make any cogent case to the opposite. You can't. I think I'm going to vote you to be the next GM. I will gladly take that job, and they will probably fire me eventually because I'll do things they disagree with, but that's fine. We can beat anyone if Igor gets back to himself. Yeah, that's a big one. The Devils don't scare me. Jay, if you go back to the series last year, the Devils didn't beat us. We just lost. Plain and simple. No goaltending for New Jersey. I'm not worried about New Jersey. I was worried about New Jersey. I'll take New Jersey. We control that. If you go back to the series that they lost last year, it wasn't what the Devils were doing. It's what we didn't do. So I'll take my chances on that. On a lighter note, as we wrap up here, Rangers released the 2024 Stadium Series jersey. I have seen some mixed reviews out there. To be bluntly honest, these came out a lot better than what was rumored for these to be. You know, I saw leaks of what people thought they were going to look like for the Islanders and Flyers, and that was going to be like a Rangers variation. I was braced for something exceptionally terrible. I like the look of these. I think it's an interesting twist on the white jersey. And remember, they had to be white. The one year they didn't do white against Buffalo, but these have to be white because the Rangers are the road team. I'll explain to you why. All of these outdoor games, the Rangers are the road team because if they weren't the road team, then the Rangers would lose a property tax exemption that they have for playing all of their games at the Garden. The Rangers are not going to lose their property tax exemption over something like that. And I think the funny part about this whole thing is this whole 2-game stadium series thing. It's so obvious that the Rangers just wanted to, the NHL wanted the Rangers in the game. But they already went to Yankee Stadium. They already went to Citi Field. So MetLife was what was available. And they just can't put the Rangers in a game with New Jersey or not include the Devils. Then the Islanders get mad. Oh, what about us? So then they put the Islanders in and said, okay, we'll do 2 games. We'll bring the Flyers. Now there's 2 games. I imagine that's how it went down in negotiation. Personally, I like the jerseys. I buy at least one of every one except for the 2012 Stadium Series because I didn't like it. I'll buy one of these. I like the color scheme. I like the look of it. It's different. I think they'll sell quite a bit of them. Of the 4 jerseys for the Stadium Series, I actually think the Devils came out the best. I like that red and black look for them. The Devils can go to hell, but I like the look of the jersey. Then the Rangers I thought was second. Flyers, I thought it's a Flyers jersey. There's not a lot of risk to it. They all look the same. And then the Islanders jersey looks terrible. Islanders jersey looks terrible. I don't know who okayed this monstrosity with Isles across the chest, but it is UGLY. And they're not going to sell any anyway because there's no Islanders fans. But Jersey won't make the playoffs. Chris, that's possible. I think they will, but it's not out of the realm. Paul Suggs, jerseys are fire. I think they look awesome. I like them. Nice jersey, sleeves suck. Yes. Well, one thing that the Rangers and the NHL are trying to get better at is making more money. So, Terry Lapier, Toronto is the only team I really worry about. Sad. They look great. Oversized numbers on the sleeves and the back are hot. I do like that, which does make some sense there. Rob Simpson likes the 3rd alternate jersey. I'll be at that game as well, so let's try to meet up. I talk to you all the time. Jerseys look better with the full getup, and I think they should put fish sticks across the chest. I look, guys. If you go look at if you haven't seen it, go look at it. It is terrible. The Devils jersey is nice. To give them credit, I like it. Flyers jersey is like every other jersey they wear. Rangers is a nice twist. Islanders looks dumb. Next show, TBD. I don't know. I know I haven't done a show in a couple months. I'm going to try to get back into some rhythm here. We're going to get closer to the deadline, so there's going to be a lot more things to talk about. I'm not going any more Disney trips, so I'll be here. There's 35 days-ish until the deadline on March 8th. If the Rangers do anything, BlueTruth will keep you informed. We'll share thoughts. We'll discuss it. We'll do an emergency show, whatever. But breathe. It's going to be okay. Just realize something. For the people that are arguing with me, I'm telling you right now, we'll look back in 5 weeks. You'll be like, Brian, you were right. They're going to be very active. Whether they're not rebuilding, they're not going to be rebuilding. They're in win now mode. They're going to be aggressive. I'm telling you right now. They may do something exceptionally stupid, and I'll tell you it was, but they're going to do something. I don't know what else to tell you. They think they can win it all. Whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter. They think they can win it all, so they're going to make moves to help that case. Me personally, I'll be attending 4 games this month. I'll be at the Lightning game on the 7th, which is a week from yesterday. The Canadiens game on the 15th, which is 2 weeks from today. I'll be at the Stadium Series game on the 18th. That will be very cool. And I'll be at the Blue Jackets game on the 28th. If you're in the Garden, I sit in 115. Stop by and say hello. I love meeting you guys. You guys are wonderful. Will I be at the BSU viewing party? So here's the thing about that. I don't know. If I don't go to the game in Philly, I probably will be there. It's probably 50-50, Brett. I live about a half hour outside of Philly. So like I might go to that game. I don't know. I haven't really, we'll see how things go. We'll see how things go. PJ, message me. I think 125. I don't know that actually. I'm in the lower level. 134. I don't know. I gotta look. I'm 1 something. I don't know. But I'm in the lower level, like I think corner-ish. So we'll see. The oversized numbers help in an outdoor game with of course it does. Yeah. Logo sharp. Pop still beats his wife. I'm 149. I'll message you. I gotta look. It's in my text box somewhere. I gotta look. All I know is I'm gonna look like Ralphie's brother. What was it? Randy from the Christmas Story. I'm gonna be all jacked up and wear like 4 coats. When I went to the outdoor games at Yankee Stadium, and the Devils game was fine. Was the Islanders game was cold, very cold. Ooh, it's cold thinking about it. Listen, anyway, thank you all for watching BlueTruth. Like, follow, share. You know the drill. Thank you all for the 7,000 followers. I think it's like 7,200 now if you want to get technical. This is always a lot of fun for me. A lot of great interaction tonight. We got a lot of viewers tonight, which is awesome. It makes it so much more fun. If you haven't liked the page, follow the page. We get a lot of good funny memes. Like, we have fun. The page growth has been great. So thank you all. Thank you for watching. Have a good night. And let's go Rangers. Chin up. They'll be better after. They'll be better when they come back. That's my thought anyway.